Travis Kelce ain't about the money. And what do we want to see for week 2 of OTAs for the Kansas City Chiefs? We're going to get into it now on Locked On Chiefs.
From the land of the free and the home of the Chiefs, this is the Locked On Chiefs podcast.
Welcome back from the holiday, friends and neighbors. Hope you guys had a good time, and welcome to Locked On Chiefs. We are part of the podcast network called Locked On, your team every day for free on every platform, including YouTube. If you would like sub and hit the bell over there, I'd appreciate it. As well as joining on the sub platforms on everything for audio. That would certainly help as well. We have a lot going on, and here you can make us your first listen. We appreciate you tuning in with us right now. Grab another show from Locked On for your second. Maybe it's the hockey conference finals going on. Check out the Avs show. Come back, check out the draft show. Yours truly will be on that tonight with Eric Crocker as well. We have a lot going on. I'm Ryan Tracy, the founder of Rogue Analytics and Performance Consulting. We do a little bit of everything, including the Athletic Matrix, to get you ready for the season through the draft. Everything that you need as we hit this part of the season and try to get the first glimpse at what's going to happen. We're going to talk about that and Travis Kelce today. Woo!
Yeah, a little bit to talk about there. And I'm Chris Clark, founder of Chiefs Corner. You can find me at KC Chiefs Corner. I actually wrote an article on Saturday talking about the Orlando Brown Jr. situation and how that becomes a more pressing issue the longer it continues to go. So check that out. Big question with him is he going to get an agent, and is it going to be soon? Because if it isn't going to happen, I don't see how he's going to be playing on anything other than the franchise tag.
Yeah. And I think we'll dig into that a little bit with Matt tomorrow. So guys, be prepared for that. And then hopefully we'll have some news by the time they practice again later in the week. But today it really comes down to the fact that at this point in the season, you're thinking big picture. You're thinking about what your goals are for the season. If you're one of the players that is solidly on this roster, and you're not somebody, that's trying to make an impression or trying to make a fight, you're trying to think about what are your goals? And Travis Kelce made it really, really plain about what he's about right now at an age where he's starting to get up there when some tight ends are forced to retire. Now, he's not one of them, but it certainly comes into your head when you get to this point in his career, what his priority has to be.
Yeah, and the thing that's really interesting to me is I kept seeing, George Kittle talking about it because he was talking about the tight end camp that they're going to have in the next couple of weeks. And Travis Kelce, George Kittle, and Greg Olsen hosted that last year. I think it's Tight End University. They're going to have it again this year. And Kittle was saying that Kelce was supremely underpaid. And I'm guessing that's where this quote came from. But Kelce has made it clear. He came out in the media and said that money is secondary in his career so far, at this point in his career. I understand why he said it. I understand the thought process. But to hear him say that, of all people, I love Travis Kelce. I just never thought we would see him be the guy that was going to come out and say that.
It definitely shows you that he's farther down the road, not just of his career, but of the maturity evolution, right? To be somebody who could be that focused with as much acclaim as he's got. But we got to be honest. He's 32 years old. There are a lot of guys at 10 years in the league. Now, obviously, he had the first year off with the significant injury. So he's almost like a year behind. But a lot of guys by now have come and went, and their career is over. And they're watching from the sidelines or from home. This is a big difference in not just being the best at your position at a given time frame, which he certainly is now. And I think even Kittle would admit that. But it's about your longevity and your legacy in terms of beyond just what you got to right now. There's a lot Hall of Fame wise. There's a lot greatest ever. There's a lot of conversation yet to be had about Travis Kelce, and winning's the one thing that can secure that for him, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I also think that a part of it has to do with his relationship with Mahomes. Those guys are best friends. It's obvious that those two get along. They're great buddies, and I'm happy with that. I just think that you look at this situation, you're not going to see many NFL players come out and say that the money doesn't matter. And I know he didn't specifically say the money doesn't matter, but to put winning above everything else, he could get more money elsewhere. I think that there are teams that are out there that would pay him more money than what Kansas City's paying him. But he's happy to be here. He's happy to have Patrick as his quarterback. He is happy to have Andy Reid as his coach. He wants to be in Kansas City, and I'm sure he wants to finish his career here.
Absolutely. And that really comes down to the question that most veterans get to when they get to this age is how much is the money important to you? How much is getting that last payday towards the end of your career? Or how much is winning worth? And clearly within striking distance, and always with Mahomes, you're always within striking distance. That's what Travis Kelce brings to this team. And I think that's a great example for some of the other guys that are in their, mid to upper 20s, second contract guys that you want to see just as much dedication from. This is a leadership level that is beyond the daily practice schedule. This is beyond coming up big in a game situation. This is bigger picture stuff that, hey, I'm really thankful to see this happen for Travis Kelce.
Yeah, me too. And I think you're right. I think you mentioned it earlier. This is what gets his career to ascend even further when it comes to the NFL and where he's going to be in the long term. He's obviously a Hall of Fame tight end. I don't think there's any question about that. But where is he going to be talked about when his playing days are over? And I'm not trying to say he's there yet. I'm just saying that's got to be part of this whole thought process is what is going to be best for how I'm going to be in the limelight in the NFL. It's not about the money for me. It's about going out as a winner, going out as maybe, a 2 or 3 or 4 time Super Bowl champion, possibly who knows how long he's going to be playing.
Yeah, that's what it comes down to. And for the short term, I'll bet he makes 1,000 yards. And if you want to make that same bet, I know a place you can do it. You can go find all those props for the coming football season, as long as all the other sports that are in playoffs right now get all the information that you need to put your money on the line at BetOnline. That's where the game starts. It's the number one source for all your betting needs, whether it is those NHL playoffs that are heating up, basketball, baseball's in full swing, there's MMA, there's everything that you could want, including props on the coming football season. One of those is, do you think Travis Kelce hits the 1K mark yet again? I'd probably put some money down. I'm just saying, if that were me, I think I may just do that myself. And if I need more information, or if I need, the wager itself, like breaking it down, I can get everything, and so can you. All that information is on their website that is easy to get to from any mobile device or anywhere else, and get that so that you can feel like you're making a smart decision, get your money into play at BetOnline, where the game starts. Now, this week starts off the evolution of this roster. And a lot of people think that it happens in when you're making acquisitions, not accusations, and adding to the roster, right? But that's only the first step. The second step is what we're seeing now, that they're on the field together, highlighting, seeing some of the veterans, especially the veterans that weren't on this roster last year, come in, and what they bring to the table and how they forge what is this year's version of the Kansas City Chiefs. Yes, there's a lot of overlap, but there's a lot of new as well. And so it comes down to, how do they get in sync? How do they make that connection? So you can go down the line about what you're hoping to see. And so I think what we'll do is just start off. What do we want to see this week? What happens this week that will make us feel better about where this Chiefs team is? Do you have something off the top?
I think it's just more chemistry with Mahomes and his receivers. To me, we talked about it before, and I'll say it again probably multiple more times, since we're just in OTA sessions right now. The line is not going to be something that you're going to get a lot from at this time of the year. That just, you're not going to see a lot. You're not going to get much, of those guys. You might get a little bit about Kennard was here starting, or, how he looked and all that kind of stuff, but you're not really going to get much of that until you really get to training camp to see where these guys are. But the wide receivers continuing to look better with Mahomes, with Henne, with any of the QBs in the room, that is what I'm looking for, because the more and more they got on the same page, it's going to help when training camp opens. It's going to help when preseason starts.
Yeah, I can't disagree with you at all. And that's obviously a focal point for the offensive side of the ball, because you want to see that start to forge right now. Like, it doesn't have to be a finished product. You just want to see it start to come together, right? Sprinkle it in a little bit. One guy, and I guess maybe we'll say the defense for the next segment, but one guy that I think we want to get a look at, because he hasn't been able to do everything yet, is Sky Moore, because I think you can project from what we've seen that you're going to have a steady influence of McCole Hardman and Juju Smith-Schuster and MVS, who actually, from what I hear, looks very good out there. Certainly in the stills that I've seen in just a couple of clips, I think he's adapting pretty well. MVS is actually the guy that I feel like maybe has more upside than we've seen from him, because I think the Chiefs are probably a team that's more likely to ask him to do things that he hasn't been asked to do before. to see. Like right now, this is grand experimentation. What I want to see from MVS this week is, can he get put into multiple positions? Can he get put into multiple situations and run route tree that isn't natural to him, that is something new? What can he bring to his game that he hasn't been asked to do before? And how well can he execute that? That goes part and parcel with knowing and understanding the offense as it's called and as it's meant to be directed. So one guy that I want to watch, and I'll be asking all the beat reporters that will be there in person, is MVS and how he's adjusting.
Yeah, and I think that that's a great question. How's he going to adjust this offense? What positions are they going to put him in that are going to be different than what he's done in Green Bay before? And I am looking forward to seeing what Sky Moore can do. I think the more he is able to get on the field, I think that's going to be important for his development. And he's a young guy. He doesn't have the biggest thing that Sky Moore can do is get in the offense, learn from Mahomes, learn from those veterans that he hasn't been around, because all the guys that are veteran receivers were with Mahomes for the most part in, Texas and practicing. He didn't get that. That's a whole different ball game. Get that started and get down in that process.
Yeah, and that's key. And for those two guys, I don't think they're interchangeable. I don't think you're going to see the substitution pattern be Sky Moore coming in for MVS. That's not what I expect. So in that scenario, if MVS can get this stuff down and run what I expect to be not completely, but predominantly at the X, that gives Sky somebody that he can line up next to quite often. And I think that is a stabilizing factor for him because, like you said, he hasn't gotten the jump start on getting into this offense, getting into the rhythm, understanding how Patrick delivered the ball, et cetera, et cetera. Like, I think for Sky Moore, it's about just get yourself so you're healthy so you can start, because everyone else has that. I expect him to be kind of a little bit behind the rotation, to not be in it day one, week one, right? I do expect it to take a little bit of time. But the sooner he starts that and the sooner he's able to jump in the mix, the sooner I think he'll be able to get in and be productive.
Yeah, and I think he's going to be a guy that is going to be productive. And the key for me is you go back and you look at Tyreek Hill's first year in the NFL, and I want to be careful. I'm not trying to compare Moore to Hill, other than the fact that they were both going to be rookies in the system, and I think that's what you need to look at. I'm not expecting Sky Moore to get 1,000 yards in this system this year. Is he capable? Yes. Will it happen? It's a question of how quickly he's going to latch onto the playbook, how quickly he's going to get acclimated into the system, and how quickly he's going to develop chemistry with Mahomes. If he's able to do all that, that maybe puts him in a position where he could get 1,000 yards. I still don't think it's going to be reality, but 600 or 700 yards from a rookie wide receiver coming to the NFL, especially with the gap of talent level that he faced in college compared to coming to the NFL, I think would be a great season for him.
Yeah, I agree. And for the offense as a whole, like, that's great for him. But for the offense and its efficiency and its ability to stress defenses, if he can do that, that means that he's able to swap in and out with the veterans. So McColl's, getting tired, or McColl's run 12 routes already and needs a breather. He can come in and be productive and be somebody that can get targeted and actually produce. Same thing with Juju. Like, I see those three guys as a rotation that they can help each other to stay fresh and stay quick and do all that together. And I think he's going to be key, because right now, if you're talking about running the three of those guys, as much as this team runs 11 personnel, it's going to be hard to maintain your explosiveness through ball games if it's the three of you taking 80-90% of the snaps.
Yeah, it's going to be hard. And there's going to be a lot of balls to go around. And the thing that I like about what Mahomes has said when he has come out and talked is that he has said specifically, you're never going to know where the ball is going to go. I do think that is going to be a key in this offense going forward. Yes, Travis Kelce's still going to get his. Yes, he's still going to have plays designed for him. But MVS, Juju, Sky Moore, Hardman, Kelce, all those guys, and then you add in a guy like Fortson, you add in anybody else that you want to add into this offense, it's not going to be the same as it has been in the past, where it was mainly going to be Hill and Kelce. Kelce will still get his. I still think he's well over 1,000 yards this year. But adding in all those pieces and being able to go to all those different pieces and be productive is what's going to make this offense even more fun this season than I think it's been than it was even last year.
Yeah, it's a shotgun effect. Just spread it around.
Yep.
And, there's plenty about that. There's a couple things that I want to see on the defensive side of the ball. But first, we do want to thank you for making us your first listen. For your next one, check out the brand new show. It's Locked On Sports Today. It's the biggest stories of the day, instant reaction, hot takes, and sometimes take of the day. It's available on the Odyssey app, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcasts. It's worth your time. That's Locked On Sports Today. Thanks for checking out Locked On Sports Today. Now back on the defensive side of the ball for the Kansas City Chiefs, the number one thing that I want to see right now is who's going to step up. Do we hear anything about somebody taking the reins? Mike Dana is going to get reps.
Yep.
Mike Dana is a known quantity to me at this point. Mike Dana is a first and second down player. He's not a dedicated pass rusher. He is not somebody that's going to affect the quarterback enough to make him a third down staple in my mind. So is it Josh Kando? Is it Malik Herring, who we haven't even seen yet because we don't get into the practices yet, only the beat reporters do? Someone's got to step up. And even though it's against air and it's not 11-11 and no one's really getting blocked, I need to hear something about somebody stepping up. Because if it doesn't happen this week and it doesn't happen next week, you're looking at going into the season with Karlaftis and Clark starting and a lot of question marks after that.
Yeah, and that's going to be a big question because you do have a lot of question marks when it comes to the defensive ends specifically. I think you still have a little bit of a question at defensive tackle as well. I mean, obviously, I think you know it's going to be Noddy and Jones, but is anybody going to step forward and actually become that next guy? I mean, Wharton has shown flashes. Saunders showed flashes when he was younger, but he hasn't shown those the past couple of seasons. You need production from that position. You know, are you going to be able to get it from defensive tackle? I mean, that's a big question mark right now. And then it's going to also get into, are you going to use a guy, and I don't know that we'll find this in OTAs, but it's something I'll be watching specifically for in training camp. Is Chanel going to be a guy that they're going to put as a D end in certain situations and bring him as a pass rusher? In that sense, it's going to be I'm curious to see how that works because he has shown the ability to get after the QB in the past.
Yeah. He's what I watched on film. He was much better blitzing or crowding the A and B gaps rather than being the last man on the line of scrimmage. But he certainly has some of the traits that you're looking for. So this is a good week to rotate him in there and see what you have. This, like we said earlier in the show, this is experimentation week. See what you have. You know what they did on film. Now it's about how do you take that next step forward? What else can you bring? What else do you have in your tool bag that maybe you haven't had to use before that we just need to tease out of you? This is about exploration by the coaching staff about what each player can bring to the team. And Chanel's a really, really interesting point. That's a great piece because he's going to be your starting Sam when you're in the base. He's going to be your backup middle linebacker when you're in the nickel. If Nick Bolton goes down, it will be Chanel at Mike. It will not be Willie Gay because Willie needs to run. So then if he adds a pass rushing element on top of it, whether it is as blitzer up, mugging up in the A and B gaps, or if it is off the edge, either way, that just makes him that much more valuable and that much more important to get into the ball game with some kind of snap count. We should see that soon because I think all these rookies have been drilled in enough that this is the week where if they're going to start experimenting a little bit, try to find that out. It should be this week. And the guys that they help are the secondary dudes. And the guy that I'm looking the most for is to see if Brian Cook can continue his progress. Already picked off Mahomes last week, made some nice plays. He's in there in the mix. I think eventually he'll be a starter for this team. I don't know how soon that's going to happen, but if he continues on that path, I'm feeling really good about where the secondary is.
Yeah, if he continues on that path, I think that's going to be a great thing for the secondary. And it's definitely going to be something to watch. I'm very curious to see how the corners play out. And it's really hard to say that you're going to see a ton in OTAs. You might hear about interceptions, but that's really about what you're going to see. You're not really going to get into the great times for corners and see how those are going to work out until you get into training camp when they're actually able to put their hands on the wide receivers and actually get after them and, go in one-on-one drills. So that's where it's going to be key for me. But I really want to see where's McDuffie run? Are we going to get any information on that? I'm sure he's a starter. How's that rotation working out? Where's Williams running? Is he running with the twos? I would assume. But, how is that all going to work out? I'm just curious seeing how those guys are being put into the different scheme and where they're being put is something I'm really excited to see.
Yeah, you and me both. And the guy that I think that is kind of a mystery right now. And a lot of folks are counting him out just because he didn't play well in Houston's scheme. But I'm really interested to see Lonnie Johnson and where he is in the competition.
Yep.
Because I have in my mind that he's going to be more of a factor than I think most people think right now. I do think it is going to be him and Fenton there for like the fourth type role when it all comes down to it, possibly the third. And I think that's uber more important right now than say, can the safeties come together and that kind of thing? Like you said, is Josh Williams ready to make the leap to the NFL, or does he need a practice squad year? That kind of thing. Jalen Watson also, he got his hand on some passes as well, showing that who I really think he is more of the breezy type. He plays like Bashaud Breeland, in that he's physical, he's long, he's man, he can press. But if you get around the corner on him, he's susceptible to deep speed. It is very similar to what Bashaud Breeland brought and Sean Smith before him and guys that fit that kind of mold. And I think that bodes well for his chances to make the roster along with Lonnie Johnson.
Yeah. And it's going to be curious to see how all that plays out. I am very curious. Where's Williams go? Where's Watson go? How do all the corners shake out? I think that's going to be a lot of fun to watch. But, the other question, when you start talking about secondary, who's going to be that fourth guy that's going to step up in the safety group? Is it going to be Zane Anderson? Is it going to be Devin Key? Is it going to be Bush? Who's that going to be? And, what we haven't figured out also is who are going to be the other linebackers on this roster. Mike Rose is somebody that it seems like a lot of people are talking about. And I get it. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that he can't make the roster. I'm just saying I get why people are saying it. But who else is going to make the roster as a linebacker? Because you're going to have at least 5 on this roster. And right now, I'm not sure where 4 and 5 come. I would imagine if I was going to bet at BetOnline, it would be on Mike Rose is going to be one of those guys. But where else are you going to go?
I think he and Carter are pretty much the top of the pile right now. I don't see, as much as they like Darius Harris, unless he really makes some kind of impact here this week, next week, like sometime before camp. Camp is where you win your job, but you got to put, I think, a seed in the coaches' minds right now if you're Darius Harris to try to get in there and compete. I would think that he's probably 6 if they keep 6. I think that makes sense. I could be wrong, but I think that's going to be a camp battle to watch right there.
No, it definitely will be. I think it's going to be hard for them to keep 6, though, with all the DBs that they're going to have to keep. The real reality of it, for me at least, is that with Chanel being your backup middle linebacker, I don't know that they keep 6 anymore. I think that is it's a completely different skill set that you have when he's able to play so many different positions. So I think that could keep them to where they only have to keep 5.
That may very well be true. I mean, and that's good for the roster overall. So who can step up? Can Shalik Calhoun make some kind of noise as an edge rusher here? He's been around the league a long time and had a lot of upside coming out. Can he realize it now of all times when he's 30 years old or going to be 30 years old? Jack Cochran, does he get into that linebacker mix? A lot of folks seem to think that he's got a chance. I didn't see enough to feel like that yet. Where does Darian Kennard line up? We're going to get information about all those things this week as we move forward. There is another week coming next week of OTAs, and then there is the final mandatory minicamp where you're going to see some veterans show up, and hopefully we'll have some news on Orlando Brown by then, but that is a show for another day. So thank you for spending your time. We hope you enjoyed your weekend. Did I miss something?
No, I think that is a whole nother show that with Orlando Brown, and hopefully we get that figured out in the next couple of weeks, or at least started to get figured out in the next couple of weeks. Thank you for listening
Matt
today.
Derrick will be here tomorrow.
There you go. And Ryan and Matt Derrick will be tomorrow. So I'll talk to you tomorrow.